third largest economy, and that is something that the Prime Minister has undertaken personally, right from Make in India to the digital revolution that India has seen and also exported to the rest of the world. Do you see synergies that India can offer to the Americans at this point in time if we are taking weaponry from them? What's at offer here from India to America?
Good evening, Vineet, and to all my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. I think this meeting is happening in an extraordinary situation because I've never been so anticipatory on the meeting between the two leaders. There have been trips earlier as well. It's not that Prime Minister Modi is visiting America for the first time or he's meeting President Trump for the first time. But what has transpired over the last few weeks, I think this is one of the most anticipated meeting, I would say, especially with regard to the, I call the new economic situation as terrified. It's not terrified, it's terrified. So with regard to the tariffs and with regard to the deportations, with regard to the defense deal, with regard to the new geopolitical equations which are now realigning after President Trump took over. So I think it's a very, very different scenario, and Prime Minister Modi landing there at this point of time, it's a very, very crucial meeting. Yes, the message of $5 trillion economy, which is we're around the corner. We're just about probably a couple of years ago, or maybe even less, from that mark. But I think it's not about the numbers. It's about business going forward. And so that we know President Trump is basically a business person. He means business. So it's both. He is a business person and he means business in whatever he does. Well, we've been hearing about statements morning, evening coming from him. I loved when Adrian said that all of them are not knee-jerk reactions. That's, some of them may not be, But then eventually it settles down to reality. And whatever he's announced about the tariff for Mexico, for Canada, for China, and then talking about, India should moderate its own tariffs. I think they are all predetermined statements. I don't think those statements came to his mind after he became president. He was quite convinced from the time he was campaigning that he has to do this, and this is unfair. We cannot be exporting something at and you impose tariffs, and we can be importing something where we're putting, like, for example, the Indian tariffs. I was taking out the average of all that we export, Vineet, to America. And, the average tariff came somewhere between 14 to 17%. And I did the same exercise for what comes from America as well. The average was 3 to 4%. So I think that's what is counting in the mind of President Trump, that there is a difference about 10% odd in the two-way trade which happens, and he feels this should be a level playing field. And we should not forget that America today is India's largest trading partner. It's overtaken China, for that matter, $130 billion plus. Also, what's counting on President Trump's mind is, the negative trade balance which America has with India, or if I put it the other way around, India has a positive trade balance with America. I think he also wants an equalizer kind of a thing where whatever we export, we import, it should be a level playing field. I think that's what he's targeting. I don't know if that's possible or not immediately, but then that'll also be on the table. So I think it's going to be a very tough call as far as the tariffs are concerned. We saw in the Indian budget recently, which came on 1st of February, that tariffs on some of the products were reduced in anticipation of this meeting coming up. I'm sure Prime Minister Modi has gone with a very open mind. And if there is a stalemate, or if things come to a standstill where the dialogue doesn't move forward, Prime Minister Modi is quite prepared to moderate. I'm sure that he's carrying the list of items which do carry a little more lopsided tariffs than what America, exports to India, and vice versa, both ways. So I think there is a tick box kind of a list which is there in his pocket, and I'm sure that'll be the point of discussion. On deportations, I think minus the handcuffs and the chains and a military aircraft flying to the country, we are fine with taking back the people who've gone illegitimately. I mean, no country, even if they've gone from the country, would like its citizens to be landing up somewhere without legitimate documents and without legitimate entry permits. So we're fine to take them back. I think it's the military aircraft which is not needed. They don't need to be chained. In an aircraft, you don't expect to be running around here and there. They'll obviously be landing here. We're fine with taking back those people, and we've already spoken about that. But I think we should not forget that there were days when India needed America more than America needed India. But I think times have changed with it now. America needs India as much as India needs America, if not more. I think we are living in those times. So I'm sure President Trump, whatever dialogue that happens in a few hours from now, is going to be, around that thought process. And I'm sure there's this, although I did use the word stalemate, but I'm sure it's not going to be there because the position India holds as of today is of utmost importance, whether it's global south, whether it is South Asia. Well, they're already loggerheads with China because of the trade tariffs which have been imposed. So not a very hunky-dory relationship with China. And America cannot afford to have the similar kind of relationship with India. So you need to have one very good friend out there in that part of the geography. So I think I'm looking forward very positively to this whole dialogue. The interaction is going to be very, very positive. I'm expecting a very solid defense deal, which will probably come out. I'm expecting some kind of solution on the tariffs, or some kind of compromise from both the sides, and a very forward-looking bilateral trade in the years to come. There's tremendous possibility there. We should not forget that some of the finest minds in America are Indians, whether they're CEOs or beneath.
Absolutely.